All right, everyone, how you doing? My name is Rob here, as always, from Rob's School of Music, and today we will be featuring a local legend, literally, like, as long as I can remember in Suffern here. This has been a pillar of our community, Mr. Mike Malandra'a. So welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Rob. It's great to be here.
Should I say, are you sensei? Is that your title within the?
Yeah, sensei in Japanese means teacher. And in Korean, it's called sabonim, I believe. So it just basically means teacher.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm fine with that. I just don't go with the master titles and all these other ranks and all that other stuff. But sensei is what my students call me, yeah.
Okay, honestly, I was like leading up to this, I should probably address him properly as someone who trained fast, but
call me anything you want. I really don't care. It's fine.
Well, I'm going to call you awesome is what I'm going to call you, because I'm my best friends lived in Suffern my whole life. I moved here right before 9th grade, but I was always hanging out in downtown with my friends. We would always walk over here, and like literally as long as I could remember, your school has been there, and that's just the longevity is something just to applaud in itself.
Thank you. So what are you saying? I'm an old man?
No, you have a full head of hair. So no, you are winning that battle, sir. So let's start at the beginning. So you have this incredible martial arts school and the community. How did you get into that? Let's start there.
I moved up here. I moved up to Suffern. I was in 4th grade. I was born in the Bronx. We lived in Queens, and moved up to Suffern in 4th grade. And the problem for me when we moved up here was I was starting school in the 4th grade. Everybody in school was already established with their groups and their friends because they were there from kindergarten. So I went to RP Connor, which back then was Cypress Road. The principal at the time, Richard Connor, wound up years later. He passed away of a heart attack, and they named the school after him, and that's how it's RP Connor now. But anyway, so that's where I started going to school. And 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, up until about 7th grade, every day, Rob, honestly, I can tell you, and I tell my students all the time, every day I get off the school bus, get on the school bus in the cafeteria, I got picked on, I got beat up. I remember my face being pushed in the snow and the kid yelling at me, eat the snow, and I'm yelling back at him, I am, please get off me, leave me alone. So I realized I had to change something. And my father at the time was teaching martial arts, and he was training. He had got into the arts when he was in the military, younger. And at the time, he was training down in Ridgewood, New Jersey. So we were in 7th grade, and one day I said to my father, who, by the way, every time I'd get into a fight or someone would beat me up, I'd come home, and my mom would try to go talk to the parents' mom. And that obviously doesn't work. And my father would tell me, get your book bag, go back up to the bus stop, and if he hits you, you hit him back, and you don't stop until he stops. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, that's a great idea, but how do I do that? And what if it doesn't work and I really get beat up even more? So finally, I said to my dad, I'm like, can I come down to this place you go and teach at and you train at down in Jersey? And I said, yeah. So I went down, I watched a couple of classes, and back then, 7th grade, I don't know, I was in that was what, 1978 maybe, 77. Martial arts really wasn't a thing for kids. So I went into a class with adults, big class, 25 people, and they're everywhere, anywhere from the age of 20 all the way up to 60, 65 years old, white belts all the way up to black belts. So I go into this class, and I'm in the back of the room. I'm the only kid in the room. But I felt okay there, and I was confident because I came in with my father. So I started training, started working out, and really started liking it. The guys and the girls in the class, the adults, they kind of took me under their wing and really made me feel at home. So it wasn't until about 6 months that I finally started to build some confidence. And I remember I'm in shop class in the middle school. This was probably now 8th grade. And I'm sitting at the shop table. The bell hadn't gone off yet. My whole thing was I felt if nobody noticed me, people would leave me alone. So I would always put my back to people, which is the worst thing you can do. And I would just kind of huddle up in a ball and just not make eye contact. There was this one kid that he'd been picking on me for the whole year. We get into shop class. I'm sitting down. He's sitting down. I got my back to him. praying that I can get through this class today without getting picked on. He pulls back and shoots a rubber band, hits me in the back of the ear. And at that point, the switch went off, and I had enough confidence to get off the shop stool. I went over to where he was sitting. I grabbed him, threw him off the stool, got on top of him, and just pounded him. Teacher came over, and this is 1977, 78, breaks us up, says to me, Malandra, get back to your seat, and to the other guy, Davis, get down to the principal's office now. And that, Rob, there was a handful of other times I got picked on that I had to protect myself in school. But after that day, that kid became my best friend, never bothered me again. And all of a sudden, everyone was like, don't mess with Malandra. And that all of a sudden I realized, I'm like, wow, I just had to have confidence in myself, and I had to believe and get them to believe that I was the wrong person to pick on. So that's kind of now what I teach to my students. And I can really relate to them because a lot of the kids that come to me are in that same position. And I understand how they're feeling because I lived it. And it just makes my job easier. And I believe it also makes them more trustworthy of me and believe in me when I tell them what they need to do to keep themselves safe. So that's it. In my whole life, I went to school for architecture, realized I loved art, I loved drawing, I loved photography, just couldn't sit in an office. Always wanted to run a martial arts school. So after about 3 years of college, I finally gave up on that, went into construction as a side job. Started teaching martial arts at the Suffern YMCA up the street. At the time, the contractor I worked for, he had an account with the Christ Church of Ramapo, which is right next door to the Suffern Police Department. So I was always in the church doing odds and ends and a lot of jobs in the facility. And the head priest there took a liking to me and started to trust me because I would open up and I would close when he wasn't there and we were working there. So he said to me one day, he said, Mike, we have this gymnasium in the back of the church. If you ever want to use that as a facility to teach your martial arts, and you're more than welcome to. I said, Father Andrew, his name, he's no longer there. I don't know, but he moved to the Carolinas. I said, that's a great idea. I said, but the room is vacant. You don't have anyone down there. He said, I don't trust anyone down there. He said, everyone who's rented it never took care of it. He goes, you've been here in this building for quite some time. I trust you. It's your space. All I ask you to do is fix it up, clean it, take care of it, and just respect it as if it was your own. I said, absolutely. I said, what do you want me to pay you? So he goes, I don't know. What can you afford? Now I'm thinking to myself, what can I afford? I have no idea. I said, how about $250 a month? So Rob, for the first 6 years, I fixed the space up, paid him $250 a month for about 4 to 6 years. And then finally I started making some money, and I said to him, I can afford to pay you $500. Would you take it? He goes, are you sure? I said, yes. So for another 6 years, I paid him $500. After being in that facility for 12 years, I finally got the opportunity to move into the space I'm in now, and I've been here ever since. So 12 years in that building, 22 here, do the math, and it's well over 30 years that I've been in the village teaching martial arts.
See, that's what I'm telling you. A legend. That's just, like in any sort of business, longevity is usually a sign of you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And that's, I have such respect for that. I hope to be doing this here with this school for 30 years, well, what you're doing up there with your place is amazing. Let me tell you something. You'll be here for 30 plus years. I mean, music, arts, and I have a lot of my students go to you, and I hear how they talk about it. There's passion. There's the real passion in their voice. So you're doing the right thing. Thank you so much. And vice versa. I had friends in high school. Ross Cohen was a good friend of mine. And
yeah, Ross.
So we were studying for a test somewhere along the way, and he was like distracted because he had to do some sort of belt test or promotion or something. I was like, dude, we have a history. He's like, I don't care. And I was like, okay. Which I didn't even think of until I was prepping for this. I was like, oh yeah, that happened.
That's funny.
I love your story because I see, my story in, as I had mentioned to you off air, prior to music, martial arts was my life. And I thought that was going to be my thing. And these silly guitars ruined it. But I grew up in the East Ramapo school district, and I was getting picked on constantly. My parents sent me to a karate program, and I was always tall for my age. So at 9 years old, they put me in the adult classes.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
And I was getting, my butt handed to me, but because my body grew too quick. I was lanky and awkward. But just one day, finally, my mom was always saying, stand up for yourself, stand up for yourself. And this one kid, tried to push me or something. I don't remember the story exactly. My mom knows it very well. She's quite proud of it. And I somehow, used his momentum.
Go mom, yeah.
Right. I'd been complaining forever about this particular person picking on me, and I used his momentum against him. I went with, took him down, and then the principal, they wanted to suspend me. And my mom comes in to the office and she goes, "I will own this school district if you try and suspend my son, because we've documented we've been complaining about this forever." So like the confidence that comes from training, it built my character. Like I don't think I would be and then I taught a bit when I was younger. But I don't think I'd be the music teacher I am if I didn't have that element in my life. So they really do work hand in hand.
Absolutely.
What particular, is it a different discipline, different style? Is it sort of your own?
I was lucky enough when I started training. I trained down in Ridgewood. The individual's name, he still has a school in Oradell, New Jersey. His name is Rich Fustini. Another gentleman by the name of Bill Timmy. Bill isn't teaching anymore, and I think he moved away, but Rich is. And then I was training under my dad. But I was lucky that I trained in a school that was eclectic, so it wasn't one specific martial art. We did everything from taekwondo, stand-up, kicking, punching, to judo, which is a lot of the throws and takedowns, a lot of jiu-jitsu. But the jiu-jitsu isn't what you see today. Everyone thinks jiu-jitsu is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's a style of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu originated in Japan, and it was everything from stand-up down to the ground, and it was very tactical, and it was very self-defense based and not a sport. So I trained in that, and then later on, as years went on, I started to do some training, and now I'm doing a lot of training in Coil, which is a Filipino martial art. So we do a lot of stuff with knives and sticks, and how the weapon becomes an extension of your arm, and how you utilize it the same way you would utilize throwing a punch or any type of hand motion. Hey, that's it. That's a rattan stick. That's it.
This is my defense in case anyone tries
That's my go-to. So God forbid someone ever breaks into my house. Forget that. That's what they're needing. That stick. Yes.
That's so funny. I've had it literally in the corner of my office, and I was like, that's what he's talking about.
That's it. That's it. And so I was lucky that I trained in many different martial arts, and my father took me to a lot of different martial arts schools. I remember I was in 12th grade, and I said to my instructors, I said, I want to get my black belt before I graduate high school. So their response to me was, "You'll get it when you're ready." And they walked away from me. It wasn't until a year later that I got my black belt.
Wow.
And it wasn't until about 3 years after that I got my second degree black belt. And for my second degree black belt, my test was kind of odd because my father and my instructor put me in the car, and we drive down to the South Bronx. And he takes me down to this gentleman's school. His name is Reno Morales. Reno was Lou Gossett Jr.'s bodyguard at the time. Wow. And Reno's probably, I haven't seen him in years, probably in his up into his 80s now. But so I walk into this room, and I got my embroidered black belt on. I got my black gi on, and I just think I'm the man, because I'm a black belt now. Won many tournaments and all this stuff. I walk into this room, and there's people in there, my age, a little younger than me, a little older, and nobody has everyone's wearing different color belts. And there were no black belts. And they're all, tall, lanky people. And so basically we put the hand pads on, no headgear back then. There was no such thing as headgear. And you throw your mouthpiece in, and you step into the ring. And the ring was 4 chairs and rope tied around the chairs. You get into the ring, and I set up in my stance. I put my hands up. Next thing I know, this kid glides across the floor and just kicks me square in the face. And I was just like, whoa. I'm like, this just got real fast. And then I realized that they didn't respect the belt. They respect the person. And once they saw that I wasn't going to lay down, and I held my ground, I walked out of that place. The instructor gave me my second degree black belt. My father and my instructor approved it. And I left that room, and I realized that it was like, wow, it's not what you wear, it's what you know. And I realized that everyone wearing a belt they had been training anywhere from 6 months to 10 years. It was an inner city. They couldn't afford uniforms and belts. So whatever this instructor could get for them to wear to hold their gi top together is what they put on.
Wow.
So it was the craziest thing. I'm like, I'm a black belt here, and there are kids and guys in this class that are red belts and white belts that are just wiping the floor up with me. How is this possible? But it was a real eye-opening experience, and it really humbled me. And I think everyone that puts a black belt on should relive an experience like that. Because today, everyone thinks they can do a flashy riff, they can do a flashy kick, or they can hit a home run, and all of a sudden they think they get the respect of the world, and that's not how it goes. You got to put your time in, you got to earn it.
110% agree.
So,
me personally, my martial arts experience, I failed my black belt test the first time, and the second.
Okay, so yeah,
and that humbled the heck out of me, because I was like, oh, wait a second, who am I? And I was like, all right, we'll get back up and try again. And the second time my test was scheduled, I had a fever. I was sick. And
right.
My sensei at the time, prior to, he's like, you're not ready again. We don't want you to have another experience like that and shatter your confidence. So I'm like, no, I am ready. And it turned out he was trying to play me against myself, which worked.
Right. Yeah.
Go there with a fever. I get through the first two parts of the test, the board breaking and just basically the technique based stuff. And then we did sparring at the end. And again, I'm tall for my age. So I'm fighting second and third degree grown-ups, and I'm a boy.
Yeah.
12-and-a-half-year-old boy. And I just got just kicked. I'm crying the whole time. I'm double vision from the fever, and it never backed down. And I was like, oh, I get it now. Like that's just do it,
Yeah. I don't know of any individual coaches can do this. I really don't know any other sport or activity that really develops the determination, the perseverance, and the humble attitude that the martial arts does.
Completely.
I mean, there are so many sports will develop someone physically, but there aren't any out there that develop the brain and the body together. And I'm so thankful that I got involved. It really, like you said, it made me the person I am today. I don't know where I would be or what I'd be doing if it wasn't for that training.
But I think what makes that even more special is you're able to give it to other people. Like who you are, fragments of you goes into every person you train and all the people who work under you.
Yeah.
You're like I said in the beginning, a pillar of the community. We just got a comment here. I'll throw it on the screen because it's so sweet from Detective Sergeant Marsh.
Yeah, Rick. Rick's right. Rick's a great guy.
His kids are students here. Great family.
Oh, okay.
But it's like there are generations of people who look to you as the person who helped them on the path to who they are today. And I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, you're doing the same thing with music. I mean, it's what you do, what I do. It's a tool. Now it's how the individual who now has this tool uses this tool to better themselves and to better their technique and what they're doing, but then to also use this in other facets of their life.
100%.
It's you can't put a price tag on it. You really can't.
Completely agree with you. So in being, where you've been for so long and just so such a staple, about a year ago, we got kind of our legs chopped out from under us with this thing called COVID-19. So what did that do, in the early weeks of COVID within your business? And then how did you pivot and grow and obviously sustain through it?
Well, I thought, like I guess everybody thought, it was a 2-week vacation, Okay, you take 2 weeks off, you regroup, we're going to come back and, we'll pick up what we left off. So for the first couple of weeks, it was okay, got to stick it out. Then when 2 weeks turned to be 4, 4 turned into 6, 6 turned to 8. Now we're 2.5 months into this, I was like, everybody was like, oh my God, like, where's this going? What are we going to do? And I mean, I was like, I said to my wife, I'm like, I can't run classes. I can't have people in my facility. I said, I can't sell my photography. I can't sell my artwork. I said, my hands are tied. I cannot make a living. So, and now for the first time in a long time, it brought me back to being when I was a kid. I was like, okay, with this problem, but I need a solution. So I threw on my sneakers one day and I went out for a run, and I'm out running. I come back from my run and I home. One of my students who trains here at the school, Walter Goldman. Walter owns Gold Cap Consulting right here in Suffern. He basically, you would hire him. He'd help you build your business. He would help you market your business. He'd help you budget your business. He's a business genius. He sold a company called Magnacom years ago. That was a networking company. When I first met Walt and he first started training here, Walt knew nothing about computers. He knew nothing about networking, but yet he built this company up to a multi-million-dollar company and sold it. And his philosophy is, Mike, I didn't need to be the smartest person. I just got to be smart enough to hire the smartest people and listen to them. I mean, the guy was great. So anyway, he leaves me a message and he says, hey, just reaching out to you. Give me a call. So I call him up and just got done running. So my head was clear. He says, Mike, he goes, I'm not telling you what to do, and I'm not going to expect you to do anything for me. He said, but I'm going to tell you something, and whether you choose to do it is up to you. He said, but I need an outlet, and I'm sure all the other people in that facility need an outlet. He goes, you need to figure out how are you going to do some type of class virtual. How can we train together? He said, because I'm going crazy in the house here. He said, I need someone to get me going. Well, it was Walt Goldman that got me going. So it's a perfect example of sometimes you have to turn to your students, and then they're the ones that are going to help you. So I looked at my wife, who was sitting in the kitchen with me, and I said, all right, I'm going to run a Facebook Live martial art class, and we're going to do it 2 days a week. And that's what I started doing. I started doing virtual classes, did it until June 10th, which was my birthday. And then I said, you know what? Now I can start running classes outside. So we started running classes outside. And then in July, I think it was the end of July, we were allowed to open up inside with like 20%, whatever it was. So I had my school set up. I got all the COVID rules. I followed all the protocols. I checked with Chief Osborne. I spoke to the health department. I figured out everything I needed to do to make my place safe. And I started running classes inside. The thing was, I was well over 100 students. I mean, now I'm not embarrassed to say, and I'm not going to try to hide anything. I'm at about 35 students right now. And that number is slowly starting to pick up, and it's slowly starting to grow. But it's starting to get back to where you start to see light at the end of the tunnel. Yes. But then I also took my photography and I took my artwork and everything that I sold here in my gallery that I'm in right now, and I moved everything online. So I spent the last year building and developing my website. I set it up with Shopify. I'm going to be selling on Etsy. I'm selling everything from yoga mats to tapestries to these face coverings to fine art prints online. So now that's become now a supplemental income that I'm using that and the school to kind of keep me where I was when the school was just my livelihood. Yeah. So it forced me to look into doing different things and to do the same exact thing I'm doing, but in a different way, which I'm sure you've had the same story as me, but with your business.
And I love to hear it from other people because we all went through the same thing. Oh, 2 weeks. Okay. Like the week leading up to it. Like I remember literally this week, a year ago, we were putting up signs. Everyone has to wash their hands for 20 seconds, wiping everything down. And I was like, all right. And then, shut down. And then we haven't opened back up since. We've been fully virtual because the rooms I have aren't large enough for me to feel safe enough to have the one-on-one, even if I put the plex and all that. So at this point, like over 4,500 literally virtual lessons. And it's just been
4,500. Wow. That's amazing.
Thank you. It's
wow.
But it's the same thing you said. Like it was, I was like, oh, we'll get through this. And then, okay, we got to figure it out. And then trying to do other things, but it sustains. And similar to you, like our enrollment is nowhere near March 2020. Dude, that was gonna be my best month ever. It was gonna be awesome. And all of a sudden we go to virtual and we lose 50 students in a second.
So
it's not for what we've lost from the past 12 months. We've been able to bring them back. The enrollment isn't what it was by any means.
Right.
We're sustaining, we're floating, we're keeping around that enough students to keep us moving forward every month. But losing street fairs, like when they canceled the street fair for this coming April, I was like, the street fairs are my biggest marketing tool because we get out, we do music and all of these things. But it's so inspiring that to hear someone else like, no, we just had to make it work. And then the photography and the yoga mats, those are beautiful. I remember when you started pushing those online. Let's talk about that stuff, the artworks. How'd you get into the photography and everything?
Back when I was going to school for architecture, I had to do a lot of, back then it was just film. They would send us out on our design classes, they would send you out to sites, and they give you a client. The client was one of the professors in the school, and the client was the person that you were designing that structure for. So you'd have to go out to the site that they would say you're designing this structure for. You'd have to take photographs of it, and a lot of photographs of different interiors and different things to bring back to the table to design what the client wanted. So I really started, and I bought a camera, and I branched out where I started doing photography on my own. Then when I realized I didn't want to be behind a desk and I couldn't be in the corporate office environment, I put the camera down and I started teaching martial arts. And then the martial arts led me to doing security for Andrew Dice Clay. So my art went totally aside, and I was just doing martial arts and security, and that's all I did. And then about 10 years ago, I started taking painting classes. And I would go into the painting class, and I would bring in magazines of what I wanted to paint, National Geographic magazines, outside magazines, these big elaborate landscape scenes. And the guy who was teaching the class was totally fine with it in the beginning. Then he said to me, he goes, Mike, he says, you need to stop bringing these magazines to me. He says, you're painting somebody else's vision. You need to paint what you see and what you experience. Why don't you go get a camera, start shooting in Harriman, start shooting in New York City, and then paint your own vision. So I went out, I bought a camera, I started to do that, and then I realized how much I had missed photography. And then I got back into shooting and photography, and I did my first show 12 years ago, 10 years ago at the Suffern Library, and sold work there, and I was like, wow, people actually like my work. So I started, that's how I got involved in that, and I kept up with the painting. And now in my gallery, I sell my paintings, I sell my artwork, I sell my photography, and I branched out now, and I realized I can print all of my stuff on all these different types of items that people can use and wear. It's not only something someone needs to hang in their room in a frame. I have so many people that are doing Zoom stuff, they're buying my tapestries to hang behind them. So many bands that are doing live streams are hanging the tapestries behind their bands. And so it's pretty cool.
I love it. I just the fact that I remember as a kid walking around town, I'd go to get a hot dog at Sabret, your place is right there. And I'm like, this is interesting. Like it's more than just one thing. And like, as a young, person, I was like, that's really smart. And now I'm like, wow, multi-use space. Like, hey, you're paying the rent on the space. Let's do everything we can with it. And the more space you have there is beautiful, and it really shows off that you have. Oh yeah, totally. It's gorgeous.
But I gotta honestly, the space. Good friend of mine, his son's trained here. He's a contractor in right here in our community. John Angelis came in one day, and he said to me, he said, I had my photography small in my waiting area, hanging on one wall in the corner. He said to me, Mike, he said, why don't we build a gallery in your school? And I said, John, I've actually been thinking about that. I said, but how do I do that? The last thing I want is my students to think I'm pushing my martial arts to the back of the room and the photography's taken over and they are now second fiddle. He said, absolutely not. He goes, we're going to integrate it together. So what he did was he took my waiting area, converted it into the gallery, took about 10 feet of my existing mat area, which I had like as a storage space. We cleaned it up. We made that my new waiting area for the students. We resurfaced the floor. We hung new heavy bags up. We painted the whole place. We did this whole renovation, and it was because of him that he got me to overcome that doubt I had in my head. And what he did was amazing. If it wasn't for John, I probably wouldn't be sitting in this gallery right now. So
that's awesome.
And my students love it because, I explain to them, it's, I do martial arts, but I do the photography. You got to have the confidence to do whatever you want to do. And if you believe that you have something, be confident in it, go out and try and fail 1,000 times and learn every time you fail. And sooner or later, you'll realize that that failure turns into success.
There you go.
And you just got to keep moving forward and not make excuses.
I think conceptually too, like, you know, your students come in and are looking up to you, and, you know, that's their safe place where they're growing. And it's like, wow. And he's an amazing photographer too. Like it just the inspiration of, you know, the legend of the man. That's very inspiring, man. Very cool.
Thank you.
When I repost this, I'll put the links to all your stuff. Just text me everything, and I'll let you know when this gets recirculated tomorrow and on the podcast.
Okay, cool.
Put it in there.
Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit of music, because you happen to play some guitar too, I think. So where'd
I
you
tried to. I really know. Look, I know I'm a good photographer and I'm a good martial artist. Guitar, please. But yeah, I played as a kid. And because of the martial arts, I put the guitar down and I never really continued with it. And back then,
that's opposite me.
The exact opposite of you. I remember I bought this, my mother and father bought me this acoustic guitar, and I started taking lessons. And the guy I was taking lessons with, his name was Glenn Taylor, I believe. And to this day, I wish I could find this guy if he's still around, because he comes into my house to give me a guitar lesson. And look, we all love Kiss, we all love Black Sabbath, we all loved Aerosmith. That's what I listened to as a kid. I had all my albums laying out. All I wanted to do back then, Ace Frehley was like my idol. I wanted to look like and sound like Ace Frehley. So he comes in and he's like, all right, Mike, you got this all wrong. He said, you got to learn music. You got to learn music theory. So he comes in the next day, the next week, he brings me a cassette. And on that cassette was Dark Side of the Moon. He had some Santana on there, some Jerry Garcia on there. He had some Eddie Van Halen. What else? He had something else. Steve Howe, yes. He goes, I want you to listen to this. And then this is going to be the following week's lesson. So I listened to this music, and I knew of it, but I wasn't really like into it. So then he comes back, and he flipped through all my albums, and he found I had Yes, Close to the Edge. So we put that on. And he's explained, well, listen to the 26 minutes of Close to the Edge. That, Rob, changed my life in a creative way, where he explained that music and how it was just unbelievable. But anyway, I never stuck with the guitar. He wound up leaving town because he went on tour with Carlos Santana as his guitar tech. And I had never saw him again. So it wasn't until years later I bought an acoustic guitar. John Haber was training with me here at the school. So I said, John, I might want to start playing guitar again. He goes, oh, yeah, come to Alto Music. I'll get you set up. Yeah, John talks. He's like, John is just forever. Yeah, whatever you need, we'll do it. We'll get it. We'll figure it out. So I go to Alto Music. I buy an acoustic, and it's just not working out. I'm becoming frustrated playing. It's just not working. So I put it down again. Then I meet Doug Meyer, who Mountain Cat Guitars. So Doug starts training with me here at the school, and he's playing in all these different places with his bands. He says to me, I was telling him I used to play and everything. He goes, oh, yeah, you should come in and sit in sometime. I'm like, sit in? Well, like, what are you crazy? Like, no way. He goes, you come down to my guitar shop. I'll show you some chords. We'll figure out a song. You sit in and you'll play it with us. So he taught me how to play I Know You Rider, but with the Grateful Dead. Mm-hmm. So I go, so he's playing up at Torn Valley Vineyards up here in Suffern. Which you didn't
do China Cat into it? You just went to Rider?
Well, just know you're right. Now at 710 Experiment, yeah, we do the whole, we extend it out to a 20-minute jam. So now I'm sweating bullets, and I go back to my childhood, and I'm just like, okay, Mike, you're an adult. Just breathe, stay calm. My hand is shaking like this. I can't even make the chord. So I sit down, he plugs the guitar in, and I'm playing my 3 chords, D, C, and G. D, C, and just stay on, and just when he changes, you change. And that broke the ice. And I started playing, started practicing. He was giving me guitar lessons. So then him and this other guy, Steve DiVenuto, we call him the Godfather. Steve is the godfather at buying and selling guitars. Steve will buy a guitar today, sell it tomorrow, and buy 3 more guitars. And he's obsessed with guitars. And he's a great guy, great guitar player. So him and Steve want to start a band. They want to do it as a Grateful Dead cover band. And they said to me, we want you to play in the band. I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll play in the band. So this was about 2 years ago. So the three of us got together. We get together with a bass player, Ryan Marks, our drummer, Mark, and we have another drummer, Mike, who isn't playing with us now because of COVID. And we just started playing together. And they took me under their wing. I remember we were doing something and I should have been on an A chord and I'm on a B chord. Everyone stops playing and they're like, Mike, either you're out of tune or you're playing the wrong chord. But they were that patient with me. And so now we go out and we play. And I feel comfortable with them because I know there's no ego. There's no competition here. It's just a bunch of guys getting together and play music. And now we play 2-3 hour sets, and I know my part. I know how to fit in, and my part is becoming a little bit more each time because I become more and more confident. And we call ourselves the 710 Experiment. And it's an experiment because that's what it is. It's an experiment. Everyone gets together, we play, we try new things, and it just gels. It works.
It sounds really good too. I mean, I've watched many of those live streams, and you guys sound great together. I see Frankie in there on the cajon banger.
Yeah. Frankie's playing percussions. Yeah. We have another guy, Curtis, who's an awesome keyboard player. He plays accordion in Doug's other band. He's got a great voice. I mean, it's just great.
Well, you said something that is one of the big things I try and push on anyone that I work with here. I actually just did an interview for a blog that I can't say what it is, but it's going to be awesome when it comes out. And one of the questions was, what would you tell an adult about to start? I want to join a band. I've never been in a band. What's the most important thing to know? And I always say, be cool. Don't be aggressive. Don't play while someone's talking. Don't be too loud. Don't yell at someone who's no one ever joined a band to have a bad time, So, cool.
Yeah, right.
So I love it. And I think that's a cool story, how he made it comfortable for you, because I think
it totally made it comfortable for me. And it wasn't like I was learning. Here I am, a 50-year-old man, and you revert back to a kid. If it's not fun, you're not going to do it. Right. I mean, I had enough. There's enough stuff in life that we have to do, responsibilities. I didn't want music to be another responsibility.
Exactly.
And Doug made it not a responsibility. He made it fun. And I was learning, not even realizing I was learning.
I want to talk.
Pretty cool.
I want to pick his brain a bit about that Mountain Cat guitar and the buying, selling, and all that stuff. So.
He would actually be a great person for you to have on. Doug's got 1,001 stories.
I'll reach out to him. That would be really cool. I'm seeing some questions here, so I always forget to ask.
Sure.
What was the biggest thing you ever learned to help develop your mind and body? Is there a mantra or a specific quote that you take yourself through?
That's a good question. What I've really learned to do, and it's not a mantra, it's not necessarily a mantra or a quote, is breathing. Is a breathing exercise. It's just being able to just breathe in through your nose and exhale. Breathe in through your nose and exhale. And if you do that in groups of 3 or 6 or 8, before you know it, the mind calms down. And if the mind calms down, the body's going to calm down. If the body's calm and the mind and the body are now working together, you can succeed at what you're doing. And I've done that. I mean, I didn't even know I was doing it when I was younger training, because it was never really like, it was taught to me, but the instructor back then, it wasn't the way it is today. They didn't say you were learning this, but you didn't know why you were learning it. You just did it. Just breathe. Okay, I'll breathe. And I've used it, security, working so many times I found myself in situations where you go like, oh my God, like how's this going to pan out? How is this going to work? And you just got to say, okay, breathe, and just don't react too soon. Don't react unless you have to react. Be calm and stay focused. And it's what I've done my whole life. So I really accredit it to breathing.
I like that a lot. I do also the in through the nose, out through the mouth thing. Slows everything down. I think the first thing we do when we get nervous, you notice, like if you got an Apple Watch, it tells you breathe because you've stopped breathing. Like it's
exactly right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another question was, what was the biggest lesson you learned throughout COVID and the best thing you have learned about yourself?
Interesting. First question. Can you repeat the first one again?
What was the biggest lesson you learned throughout COVID?
I picked up 3 things from COVID, positive things. First thing is I will never take for granted the small things in life anymore. Going to dinner with my wife, seeing my niece, being able to go out for a run, things that when we were in the world prior to COVID, it's a fast-paced world. And it's, oh yeah, I'm going to see my niece. Oh yeah, I'm going to go to dinner again with my wife. We do that all the time. And then all of a sudden that's taken away from you. And now you're in the house, you can see nobody, you can talk to nobody face to face. And all of a sudden you realize how much you miss those little things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll never take that for granted. And the other thing is how important it is, and without being cliche-ish, but go back to Bruce Lee, be water. Learn how to flow, learn how to adapt. If the situation is going right and you want to go left, you might not be able to go left yet. You got to go right. Keep going right till you can veer left, or vice versa. And it just really taught me how to reinvent oneself. I'm a very stubborn type A type person, and it really taught me how to push that aside and to put your ego aside and reinvent yourself. Because if it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't have the website I have right now. I wouldn't be selling the way I am selling online right now. And I probably wouldn't have been able to get as creative as I have with my teaching, because I'd be stuck in the same way of teaching that I've always taught for 20 years. And all of a sudden now that's not working. Now you got to find a new way. Mm. So and the other thing it taught me is to just don't take anything in life for granted, no matter how big or small it is, and to just be every day. We don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, we really don't know that. I'm not trying to be morbid about it, but so you got to enjoy the moment. And if you look at the other person's always going to have more. They're always going to have the greener grass, or the better guitar, or the better photograph, or the better martial artist. What does it matter? They have nothing to do with us. Yep. It's us. And it's really what I've taken out of this COVID.
That was beautifully said. That was absolutely incredible. I agree with you incredibly as well with the reinvention. Like I've watched so many businesses, dig their heels in and just say, no, this is what we do. And a lot of them sadly aren't here any longer.
Right. Unfortunately, you're right. Yeah.
And, for me here in the school, like I made sure my students were going to be comfortable with the virtual experience. I invested in fancy microphones and lighting and all this stuff to make it new and entertaining. And then through doing these interviews with some of the musicians I've gotten to speak with, and now these incredible people within our community, like I had to reinvent myself to a certain degree. If you see me out in the street, like at Mia's or something, like I'm awkward and shy, and I accidentally come across as cold and rude, but it's just because I'm so painfully shy in real life. And going through this experience and interviewing people and talking to people, I've been able to meld Rob the teacher, which is a larger than life personality, which is like an offshoot of Rob the rock star previous life, with my true personality. And now I'm much more comfortable in my own skin and able to be, hey, how's it going? Because it's like, well, I just saw someone in real life. Like I haven't been able to see my parents in over a year. They live in Florida. So like when I see a familiar face on the street, I'm going to say hello because I'm excited, even though we can't get near each other. So it's that reinvention. I think that is the secret to life, maybe even just constantly growing and moving forward.
Yeah. And I mean, we're both talking about this, and, people listening on, we're making it sound like it's so easy. It's not easy. And every day it's not like every day I walk through life like, it's a ray of sunshine. I mean, there are days I'm down. There are days I'm upset. There are days I'm depressed. There are days I'm frustrated. But I do my best to say, okay, what I'm feeling now, I'm not going to feel an hour from now, and tomorrow's a new day. And you just got to try to work through that. And it's just, you can't give up, and you just got to keep pushing forward. As long as you're moving forward, you're going somewhere.
I completely agree. Keep going.
And the mind will always find an excuse why you can't do something. It will always find that excuse. It'll always give you the what if. And that's good because you can learn from it, but it's bad when you give into it and then you accept nothing but that. And that's the downfall of, I think, society.
Dude, you're dropping bombs here. I love what you are saying.
And I try to do it with my students. I don't want to see kids go into an adulthood just cookie cutter template if that's not what they want.
Yep.
And if it is what they want, then I want them to do it and do it the best they can do it because that's what they want. But I don't want them to do it just because, well, that's what you do, you know?
Yep. 100%. I actually have a dry erase board. I'm actually at my desk where I do all of my work. My lessons are done here. I'm in surrounded by guitars and equipment and all my fancy, I got sound effects. Let's see what we got here. We got all the different sound effects I incorporated into the lesson. I have a dry erase board in front of me, and the thing it says dead center at eye level is keep going, because it's not easy to keep going sometimes. It's you know, the world is very different today than it was a little while ago. So I think it's so important as teachers and as people that people are looking up to and looking to for some kind of guidance, just to be that ray of hope and that ray of light and say, it's okay, be okay, but got to keep going.
You got to keep going. I mean, and like I told that story about Walter Goldman earlier. I mean, I was at a loss last March, end of March, beginning of April. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel like my wife works at the bike shop in Ridgewood, New Jersey, Ridgewood Cycle. Great shop. The owner's an awesome guy. And they're an essential shop. So when she was going to work, she had like a job, and she had a job that made people feel good. And me, everything was taken away from me. I couldn't do my job. So I was you talk about being depressed. Yeah. And it was that phone call from Walter Goldman when I came back from my run that all of a sudden just made me see something that was in front of me that I couldn't see because of the situation I was in. So, you know, Mike Tyson has a coach. Any athlete has a coach to guide them, because a lot of times when you're in the heat of it, in the thick of it, you can't see what's going on. You need somebody else on the outside to guide you.
Yes.
And that's another thing in our society where a lot of times people don't want to ask for help. They don't want to go for help. They think if they do that, that's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of showing that you have a chink in your armor, and it's not. We all started our businesses and we're all surviving. Why? Because somewhere down the road, somebody helped us. Somewhere down the road, somebody gave us advice where we actually stopped and listened.
Yep.
So
1000% agree. 1000%. And I think it's, like I said, it's okay to ask, you know, so many people don't. So the more we say it, the louder we say it, it makes it okay.
Yeah.
I have one more. Let me see if I got all the questions in the chat here. Looking at my notes off screen. Okay. My last question for you is, it could be a super quick question. It could be something that takes a while to answer. So choose to do it however you like. But I think it's not necessary. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do two questions with you. Hold on. If you I do this with all the musicians, and you, sir, are a musician. So you get my rapid fire musician questions.
Okay.
All right. So I'll do this first, then I'll do the last question last.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a series of this or that questions. And you just have to say one or the other. It's nothing political or strange or anything heavy. It's all music related.
Okay.
You don't have to.
Can I think about it, or you want a fast answer?
You can think about it. You can think about it. You can justify your answer if you like. It's your show. Okay. All right. Humbucker or single coil pickup?
I don't know. I'm gonna go with the humbucker.
All righty. A Les Paul or a Stratocaster?
Stratocaster.
Okay. Now
I own 4 of them.
You have that purple one I see in a lot of those pictures.
I have a purple, I have a teal, I have a black, and I have a red. I love the sound of a Strat.
Yeah.
Just love that quacky. It's such a great sound. Yeah. But I also love a Les Paul, but I'm a Strat guy. So
okay. All right. Well, then the next question, I guess I was going to be Strat or Telly, but it's Strat. Okay. If you were in the Gibson ecosystem, would it be a Les Paul or an SG?
Les Paul.
All righty. And if you were a bass player, a P bass or a jazz bass?
A P bass.
All righty. For an acoustic, a Martin or a Taylor?
Martin.
That's the right answer. For
oh my God.
I try so hard, but I have opinions too, you know? And this next one's kind of a screwy one because there really are different sounds, but for amplification, a Marshall or a Fender amp?
Fender amp.
Cool. All right. And now we'll get into some effects. Do you prefer delay or reverb?
Reverb.
Cool. Fuzz or overdrive? So like a fuzz face or like a tube screamer?
Overdrive. I most of what I play is pretty clean. So I would go with the overdrive.
All right. Phaser or chorus?
Chorus.
All righty. Beatles or Stones?
Beatles. I love the song. I love both of them, but the older I get, you realize how amazing the Beatles are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, as a kid, it was like, okay, this is cool, and as a young adult, yeah, this is cool. But now, and now playing music, it's just, I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah. I'd say I was always like a Beatles fan, but never to the degree I should have been. And then
same with me. Yes.
2 or 3 Decembers ago, we at the end of each year here at the school, we do a big recital, and I build bands out of all the students, and then we do a themed performance. They let me use the theater and the Clifford Theater or whatever it is in the police station there.
Yeah. Okay.
Our first performance was a Beatles themed show, so I had to really immerse myself and pick the right songs for the students we had. And I was like, wow, like having to learn 15 Beatles songs on every instrument to teach it to all these.
Wow.
It really gave me tremendous appreciation. It was a gift. It didn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Okay, so about the Beatles then, and this one causes fights, John or Paul?
John. I love them both, and if you ask me why, I don't know. I just connect to his music better.
Okay. There is no right answer there, so that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more. Zeppelin or Floyd?
Floyd. Love Zeppelin. Love Zeppelin. But, Rob, if I was on a desert island and only one album I could take, it would be Dark Side of the Moon. And I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan, and I love Jerry Garcia. The only album I'm taking to that island is Dark Side of the Moon.
Okay, well, my next question was going to be Dark Side or the Wall, and I'm going to give you a hot take.
Dark Side.
I'm a Wall guy, so there's nothing.
And the Wall's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with Dark Side. I don't know. For me, the Wall connected to me. I think I got the Wall when I was in high school, when I was an angsty kid, and there was that like isolation kind of stuff. But I mean, Dark Side, like the chorus of Us and Them,
yes,
like, just melts my soul. I can't.
Yeah. And what you said about the Wall, I think, was that when I was a kid in high school at the time, the Wall had just come out, but I was already exposed to Dark Side because of my guitar teacher. And that album was like, whoa, this is crazy. I would lay in my room with the lights out, stare at the ceiling, and my mother would be screaming, turn that down, turn it down. So
my guitar teacher was Ryan Ball, and he.
Ryan the Machine.
Yeah. So my first experiences going to see live music was seeing the Machine at the Wetlands or at the Champ. Like I'm smelling something funny in the air, and there's smoke. I'm like 13 years old, just like, and my dad's like, "Stay close." I'm like, "Okay."
The Machine was my first date with my wife.
Oh, really?
We went to a little place in White Plains called the 4 and Aft, and I remember I met my wife at Gold's Gym. And she worked the front desk. I was a personal trainer at the time. And we would start working out together. And we're in the back working out, and we were doing whatever we're doing. And I said to her, this weekend, this amazing Pink Floyd cover band is playing that I've been going to see for years prior to that. I said, they're playing in White Plains. I said, do you want to go? So her answer to me was, yeah, I guess so. Now, she's a big music fan. She loves the Dead. She loves Floyd. But then I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean you guess so? I said, I'll go ask another girl then, I'm thinking to myself. And then later on, she says to me, she goes, well, I liked you as a friend, and I didn't want to ruin it if we started dating. But that was like our first official date, and we've been together ever since. When I first met her, she told me how she went to ASU in Arizona. She went with a bunch of strange guys from campus to go to Vegas to see the Dead at the stadium there with Carlos Santana opening up. When she told me that story, I said to myself, yeah, this is the girl for me. This is it. So, I don't know how we went off on that tangent, but
it's all connected, man. It's music and it's relationships. All right. So my last question for you was going to be a day in the life. You know, are you a morning guy? Are you a night guy? Are you coffee? Are you tea? You say you run. Is that in the morning or is that at night? But
coffee over tea, no doubt. I would probably, if I had to give up alcohol, give up coffee. I'd give up alcohol if I give up coffee. I mean, I really love the taste of coffee. I'm a morning person, but don't talk to me. I need to wake up. I need to have my coffee. I need to chill for an hour, 45 minutes. I just get in. I can't be the person when we get up, we're going to have a full-blown conversation about who built the pyramids. I just can't do that. I got to chill out. And I early, especially with photography. So I'm going to say more of a morning person once I get going. Okay. Evening person, I remember when I was doing security, I'd be up to 3, 4, 5 in the morning, get 3 hours of sleep, you're up, and then doing all the advanced work to plan the next day. Now that I'm not doing that anymore, I'm lucky if I can make it past 11 o'clock. I'm out.
So I used to have to be up every Friday and Saturday night until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because I used to play shows. Like
right
from 2014 to 2019, I think I played like 1,000 acoustic duo shows.
Wow.
I love not being having to be up late anymore.
Yeah.
I love being able to be up human hours. So yes. What's this? One more question. Okay. So for hours of your school, if someone wants to contact you and sign up, can they come in with no experience? Do you accept people coming from different programs and disciplines? How's that work?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have as many classes now as I did prior to COVID. And to be honest with you, Rob, I don't know if I want to go back to teaching 20, 25 plus classes a week. And it's just, now the people I have are dedicated students. They're here. They work hard. They were doing virtual with me. Some are still virtual. We were outside. They've come inside with me. So, and it's actually pretty cool because my adult class now I morphed together with my teenage class. So now I got 15-year-old teenagers in class with adults my age, a little younger than me and older than me, and they've become mentors to the younger teenagers in class. And I got brand new students who just come into that class, and I got guys who are testing for their black belt next year. And we've got a great chemistry and energy going on in that room. And that's what I'm actually doing with my children's classes now. So I have children's classes on Tuesday and Thursday for 4 and 5-year-olds. And then the later class after that would be for the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. Then my class after that is for my teenagers and adults. I'm going to be expanding out to classes on Saturday again and adding more classes during the week once the weather gets warmer out and we can start doing more stuff outside. So I am taking new students on, absolutely. Just anyone that wants to get information, have them message me on Facebook, or they can call the school. And I'll get right back to them, or I'll set them up with a schedule. We don't have contracts. Everyone's going month by month now. And I'm just really focusing on not quantity. I'm focusing on quality. And the people that want to come here to learn and take what they learn here and use it in life, that's what I'm looking for. I don't need 30 people in class anymore. I need 10 solid, good, hardworking people. And that's my focus is now. But yes, I'll definitely take on new people. Absolutely.
I love it. And we'll link up everything so people can find that when they're rewatching this. This has been so cool. Thank you so much for your time. Like your story.
Oh, this is awesome, Rob. Yeah, I mean, I could talk to you for hours. I mean, we have so many different, paths that intersect and cross.
I'm telling you, this could have got I have a lesson at 8. Otherwise, I would have kept going. I promise. I'm watching the clock. I'm like, must ask more questions. Can't be late to teach.
That's great.
So this will be it'll on YouTube. It'll be up immediately. The Facebook one takes a minute to render. The podcast to go up so everyone can rewatch this. And I'll send all the links out to that. But thank you everyone for tuning in, and stay safe, everybody. Okay. Good times are coming.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And Rob, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for your time. This has been incredible.
Thank you.
All right, brother. Be well.
Take care.